Hello dear tea friends from around the world, and welcome to a new tea class with me, Stéphane Erler, from the Tea Masters blog and the tea-masters.com boutique. We continue our fall classes on YouTube and on Facebook Live. Facebook Live enables you to ask me questions after the class. So I hope you'll be many people to join me live. But if you did not catch me, you will get the full class on YouTube. Don't forget to put some likes and to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of my tea classes. This week we are going to talk about the sense of smell, and very specifically about how to smell the tea leaves, the dry leaves. We won't go into the leaves when they are brewed, but we'll focus on the dry leaves. And the reason this is very important is first because the sense of smell is maybe not the first one that comes to mind or that happens when we make tea. The very first sense that we use is a sense of view. We first see the leaves and the chashi before we smell them. But the sense of smell is very important in our body because it is located in the frontal lobe, and it is the only sense that has not a secondary center in the brain. So there's only this place where the sense of smell is goes and is analyzed and is stored. So researchers have found out that 90% of our memories are connected with the sense of smell. So the sense of smell is really very, very important in our memories, and that's the reason why when you drink some tea, very often the smell will evoke something more powerful than maybe a simple image, a simple view of tea. And really the sense of smell is what goes directly into your memories and brings a lot of memories back. We can really associate the smells of nature in the tea with lots of memories that we have gathered before. So this makes it really a very, very important sense of smell. And another very important thing about the sense of smell is that maybe you've heard that people can smell 10,000 different smells, and dogs 3 times more. Actually, this is all information. From an article in Nature, researchers have found out that the human nose can distinguish between 1 trillion different scents. Really, this is amazing. They say maybe there is no limit to how many smells, how many scents the human nose can distinguish from. So this is really very extraordinary. Of course, we don't have 1 trillion different words to express all the variations of smell, but our sense of smell is so acute that we are able actually to distinguish all these different variations in the sense of smell. And this is much more than the sense of taste, for instance, with umami, sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. That's already pretty for taste, but for smells, 1 trillion and more different smells that you can receive and experience in your brain. How does the human brain does this feat of getting all these different smells? Actually, there are 400 different receptors located in the nose, in the front of the nose, in the back of the nose, and in in your mouth, so to speak, that that help to gather the different variations of smell. So this is really very important when we are going to drink tea, because this pleasure of smelling a good smell is something that we all like to experience when we're doing tea. Now, the tea leaves, there are 3 different ways we are experiencing them. First, in its storage, then on a plate, and third, in a teapot. Now, how does it go in with the storage? We have the choice, either a jar, porcelain, or the plastic bag that we get. Now, the difference is, let me try to. Now this one is empty right now, so I'm putting maybe half of my tea. This is my Shaninshi Oolong from this year, for instance. Let me keep it for a few seconds. When I try to smell the leaves in the bag, I do get a lot of plastic smell. The tea is a bit subdued, but yeah, it smells a bit like plastic. Now, so really not very ideal to smell the tea. Now maybe let's already put also some tea on the plate. Now let's see the difference between Now this is much more natural. This is a bit fainter, but still also much more natural than with plastic. The advantage of the jar is a bit like when you drink and you smell your wine in a nice large wine glass. The shape of the glass is a bit like a tulip shape, and so it helps to focus the aromas on top. You have, so they have less place to escape. Here also, you notice the mouth is of course is smaller, so it brings all the smells in the sense to here on top. So it's, and you get this sense of volume of the tea in the jar that also reacts with glazing. The glazing is what makes this jar, for instance, shine and not be water resistant, and therefore all the scents they are not absorbed like they would by a teapot made of clay, but they are really completely reflected. And when you use a good jar with natural glazing, then this produces a very natural feeling, a natural smell for the tea. And so very quickly the smell of plastic has disappeared, and also this kind of jar does what I've called a magic trick, is that it also cuts down on the roasting smells. So this is really very nice. The advantage now, so there's already one pleasure in smelling the tea in the jar. When you put it on a plate before you are going to brew it, there's another advantage, is that you combine the sense of smell with the sense of view. And now you are able to see the leaves also much more clearly. in a jar, the jar is so it will be a bit more dark inside, and when you place your nose, of course, you don't have any place left to look at it. So here's the advantage of the plate, is that first you can look at the leaves, and second you can smell them. Exactly how to smell, I will explain a bit later. The third time on that we are going to smell the leaves during a tea session is after we've put them in the preheated teapot. I will do this a bit later to demonstrate. And here the advantage is that the teapot being preheated and very hot, the smells are going to be intensified by the heat in the teapot. So this will produce even more smells, and this is also interesting to smell them at that point. Now, quickly, why are we interested in smelling the tea, except for the pleasure and the nice smells, of course, that we enjoy in tea? Well, it's also because this tool, our sense of smell, is going to help us learn about tea and its characteristics. For instance, there is a particular smell for the seasons. An oolong or a green tea harvested in the spring season will have a different smell, scent, fragrance than one that was harvested in summer or in winter. So by knowing which tea you are brewing and smelling them and focusing on them, you will be able to recognize after a while, oh, this is a characteristic of the season. This is typical of spring or of summer or winter, etc. Or even Dongpian, very late winter. There is also a common characteristic for the cultivar. Jinchuan and Qingxing Oolong will have a different flavor profile and different smell profile. Some say the Jinchuan is a bit more milky, a bit lighter in smell. It does not have this, but it has less buttery scent. So by drinking Jinchuan and Qingxing and paying attention to the smell of these two oolongs, you are able to later distinguish, oh, just by the smell, oh, this is Qingxing. You will become more expert in recognizing even the cultivar of the tea just from the smell. But of course, for this you need to have good information in advance. And when you learn about the tea, it really must be well labeled, that you know exactly if it's what cultivar it is, and also what season it was picked. And the third thing is we can learn also about the scent of the mountains. Shantou-qi in Chinese. Each mountain, each terroir will have its different characteristics. An Alishan and a Lishan will have different fragrances. Lishan, not just because it's higher in elevation and therefore often it's lighter in oxidation, will have lighter smells, probably more flowery smells, whereas Alishan is a bit slightly less refined in its sense. So you can also what else can you scent with the smell? Oh, the age. how old is your tea? Is it 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 years old? This is also something that different teas will have in common. As the time goes by, they develop different new fragrances, and if you learn from different teas, you will be able also to learn, this tea displays now very young fragrances, it has been freshly picked, and maybe this one year later now displays other fragrances. The fresh fragrances have a bit disappeared, and a different more mature fragrance is starting to appear. This is also the case, very important for pour, that you want to be able to have an acute sense of the age of pour, also because its value, one of the main characteristic of pour is its aging potential. So to be able to distinguish, is this pour 10, 15 or 20 years old, would have a large impact on its price, on its value. So you want to also to build up your experience on smelling these differences, so that you don't get fooled, and that you don't mistake an old aged pour with newly show pour, for instance, or one that is 10 years old and you think actually it's 20 years old. Here you would also probably be fooled. And of course, in general, what you want is to build up your database and your understanding of what is good tea. Remember, try to remember in your memory, and the sense of smell is what is really engraved in our memory the best. How a good tea will smell like, how a good oolong or how a good pour will smell like. Very often it has a sweeter aroma when you smell it, and try to use this to be able to distinguish. Last time I smelled this kind of nice sweet smell, I had a good time brewing it. But if I smelled something more sour, I did not like it so much, or maybe I should have used, maybe I should now try a different teapot to take care of these sour smells. So even you already have the tea, and maybe you find out it's maybe not as good as it could be, but this information will help you to also choose a different teaware to make the tea better, and find a suitable teaware to maybe also hide of some of these smells or aromas that you have detected when you tried to smell it. Now I'm going to pass now to the interesting way how to smell teas. First, there are a couple of do's and don'ts that I wanted to get out of the way first. First don't is don't breathe out on the leaves. It's always important that you breathe in and then you take the leaves away, and when you breathe out, that you don't breathe out on the leaves, because when you breathe out you have moisture coming from your lungs, so when you do this, you can feel it. The air comes out more moist, warmer, and you don't want all this moisture, and your own breath will have its own smell. So you don't want your smell, your moisture to affect the leaves, which the property is that they pick up the smells from the environment very easily. So no matter if you breathe here on the plate or in the jar, take them away when you breathe out. That's a very important first point. The second point is when you are with other people. Of course, I'm advocating to use your hand to put the leaves in the teapot, as you will see later on. But if you are with other people and you are a guest and you are not the person who is going to brew the leaves, don't touch the leaves like this. Imagine 10 people touching the leaves. The brewer, he knows he has to have clean hands because that's his kind of his job now to have clean hands to brew tea. But we don't know about every brewer, about every guest, where they've been. Maybe they've shaken lots of hands, maybe say hello to the dog, and now they start to touch the leaves. This is not very polite, not very appetizing either. So, of course, if you are the brewer, the sense of touch will also give you some indication about the leaves. But as a guest, you are not supposed to touch the leaves. This is bad etiquette. In a similar way, I've said, so I'm going to use my hand to put the leaves in the teapot, and by doing this, naturally the leaves will fall down very naturally and harmoniously in the teapot, especially if you are very careful on how you put them. Of course, you don't want to toss them on one side. You want really to let them come down harmoniously and really spread out at the bottom of the teapot. So what you should not do afterwards is shake the teapot unless there are a lot of tea dust. Then you want the tea dust to settle below. But if the tea is in bowl shape or etc., you don't want to shake them, otherwise you are breaking the harmonious way that the leaves have fallen down and taken place in the teapot. So then you have to take them carefully. Even the best is not to touch the teapot, which might be a bit too hot. And then again you can smell and take them away. Now, that's how do we smell the leaves? The core of the class is now. As I've said, there are different receptors in the nose, in the front of the nose, back of the nose, and in the mouth. Now, in the mouth, this will happen. We will use these when we are drinking the tea, when it's in the mouth. Now that we are looking at the leaves here, or in the jar, or in the teapot, actually, we have two steps. The first step, we are going to focus on the receptors in the front of the nose, and therefore we are going to take a short breath in. So I take a short breath in. So the smells, they don't go very far, they stay more in front of the nose, and these smells are the more superficial scents that are coming out of the dry leaves, and these more superficial smells are probably the lightest ones that come out of the leaves. So it's mostly, it should be for good tea, it should be very sweet. Then, after you have done your first short smell, you do a second one. You exhale completely, and the second one is going to be very long. You wait a little bit and then again take away the leaves, exhale. So you can do it either with leaves on the plate or in the jar. A short one. And a long one. Now the long one will two things happen. First, you not only get the first receptors involved, you also get the receptors that are located further back in the nose. And because you are breathing in with more strength, you are getting more of the smells from the tea leaves, and at the end it's almost like when you make several brews, each brew you get different aromas. So as you breathe in, different smells appear in your nose. First the lightest ones, the sweetest ones, and then the heavier and heavier. And at the end, very often, even with roasted oolong, like in this case, I get a sense of freshness and really very natural sense of freshness. So very interesting already to do this exercise of smelling in two steps. First, a short breathe in, and then second, quickly after, a long breathe in, and then you can see that there are different smells that will appear when you make a long breath in of your dry tea leaves. Of course, you can also do this. I will demonstrate it later on in the teapot. And one more thing I wanted to say. So with I wanted to also explain what is gunpowder. This is a bit more a trick I heard. If you have maybe a very good, a very precious tea, that a very old pu'er or a very old oolong from the 80s that has cost a fortune, and you have a friend or a casual friend who comes and he says, "Oh, how about we drink this tea together?" Well, how do you say this? You wanted to. You have very little left, maybe 50 gram or less, and this is a tea you would only typically brew on a very special occasion, maybe on your birthday or Christmas or Chinese New Year, really something very, very special, or it's a tea for your wedding celebration. So it's not the kind of tea that you wanted to brew now, but it's also very difficult to tell your friend no. He might take offense. So there is a possibility, and the Chinese, they call it gunpowder, which means dry brew. What is it? It is the possibility with tea to simply smell the tea in a jar. You can say, okay, this tea I have very little left, but I'm going to make you a favor. We are going to smell it together. So you agree, okay, this is a huge privilege. We are going to do a gunpowder, a dry brew, where I let you smell the leaves. Maybe you can even explain how to smell the tea properly in these two steps. And really the good thing compared to wine, you have to smell, you have to open the bottle and then you have to drink it. But with tea, actually, you have the advantage that you can open the jar and you don't have to brew it. Your tea is still there. Maybe it has lost a few atoms of fragrance, but with aged teas, they have their smells are very light anyway, so you did not lose much, and you were able to share your tea with your friend after all. Okay, I think this concludes today's class for here, and I'm going to brew some tea and answer your questions. Thank you very much. I see you next week.